Welcome everyone to MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and joining me once again is Allison.
So say we all.
This is our discussion of Battlestar Galactica. This is going to be Season 1, Episode 4. It's called Act of Contrition. So, spoilers for the episode, as always. So, this one, once again, dives into stuff that I didn't think... Like, I knew it was in Season 1, but I thought a lot of the stuff in this episode was, like, at least 5 episodes away still. But, I mean, clearly my memories just mushed all the episodes around and and whatnot. I will say this, though. This is effectively a part 1, even though it doesn't say part 1, but it does end with a to be continued, and I'm pretty confident I know a lot of what the next episode is, because obviously this one set up a lot of stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think I remember how this mostly unfolds next time.
I think I might, and at the same time, it may be the same sort of effect that you're talking about, because I'm thinking it's something that happens later in the series, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, so the big thing here is that they start off with a celebration in this episode, right? There's a pilot that's making his 1000th landing into the Battlestar, and they're going to celebrate. There's singing, there's dancing, even Apollo and Starbuck are decorating a helmet for him, and everything's so happy. And I didn't remember what was going to happen here initially, but my first thought was, this is far too happy. This guy is definitely dead by the end of the episode. Little did I know he would be dead by the opening credits.
Even Adama's really excited to get in on it. And Starbuck starts telling a story she's heard about Adama's 1000th landing, which he keeps kind of like saying, no, that's not how it really happened. But there's a very jovial mood from everyone.
Everyone's let their guard down, everyone's enjoying the festivities, and just out of nowhere, a strap breaks, some munitions that are being moved, one goes haywire and fires straight at the I'll just say birthday boy. It's not his birthday, but you know what I mean. It's like right in his face.
Yeah. And he is, of course, surrounded by all of his buddies who are fellow pilots celebrating with him at the time.
So they lose a number of pilots in the blink of an eye and injure several more, which leads to, one, obviously the big funeral scene, but mainly for the plot of the episode, the idea that, we have to train new pilots, because we're not, it's not like we've got an academy set up, and it's not like we're getting a constant stream of new recruits here. We have to try and actually make some pilots. I think Apollo later in the episode says they've got about 40 Vipers and they only have about 21 pilots for them. So like there's some spots. There's empty room for some fresh faces. And Starbuck was actually someone who trained and did the tests and stuff, as we've previously alluded to with Zach. But because of what happened with Zach, she's kind of doubting herself, and that sets up most of the main drama of the episode. So what did you think of this one, going back to this?
Like you said, I didn't necessarily remember all of these details, but it's sort of the overall vibe of what happens in the fallout. I would say so far, I think our odd-numbered episodes have been a little bit more exciting than our even-numbered episodes. We'll have to see if that trend continues. There's nothing here I think is bad. It just also wasn't quite as much tension or maybe excitement as some of the other ones.
I think that's fair. What's funny is you saying that we'll see if that trend continues, is that I'm pretty sure I really like the next episode, so it might very well be continuing based on my memory.
The second part of a to be continued sort of scenario is probably gonna, or hopefully is gonna have a good payoff, so yeah, that's true. They did say they lost basically 20 guys. It was 13 pilots dead and 7 more in sick bay from the accident in the hangar bay. So that is half of their flight crew, basically.
Yeah, so hopefully those 7 injured will eventually be back in a cockpit. But I mean, I don't know. We don't know how bad they are. Maybe they're missing limbs for all we know. We actually don't get to see them. But the big dramatic thing they do this episode to try and really amp up the drama of the big sort of funeral they're having for the people who died is they intercut it with the funeral of Zach, and it also kind of intercuts with Starbuck's memories of meeting Adama for the first time. And I will say the episode maybe goes a little bit too far with constantly bringing this back throughout the episode. Like, there's so many little moments where it'll go back to like a little snippet of a flashback, and then kind of go back in again. And even separately from that, actually, there's another device being used here from a structure perspective, is that every so often, basically every ad break, give or take, if there was ad breaks when they originally aired this, is we get like a little snippet of like Starbuck in trouble in a Viper, and it's clearly something that's not happened yet. This is something I'm a little bit critical of with TV shows, is sometimes they try and milk a bit of extra tension by showing something that happens like 24 hours from now. And almost every time a show does this, I tend to find myself thinking, they didn't really need to do that. It didn't really add anything other than just they wanted to put something flashy up front. And I think especially in this case, because as we get these little snippets throughout the episode, it ends on a cliffhanger of something we already saw in one of these little snippets. So it's not even like a new like moment, weirdly. It's like, oh, we already saw her, like, what would you call it? Ejecting out of the Viper and go into this planet's atmosphere. We already saw that. So it was kind of a weird cut to black at the end where I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe it would have been nice if you didn't show that part earlier. if you only showed the in trouble part, and maybe this would have had a bit more impact at the end. Having said that, I mean, obviously it's a big episode for developing the relationships, particularly between Starbuck and Adama, and Apollo to an extent.
And
although
Apollo's in there too, yeah. I think for the first time in this episode, we heard Apollo call Adama Dad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm not sure if he's ever called him anything other than like Commander before.
Yeah, or maybe Sir, just because as a general term. But yeah, no, you're right. Mm-hmm. You're probably right. I don't know if he's been kind of like, it's almost like bringing up Zach. His gets past some of those barriers in some ways now that they're kind of healing. Obviously, that's put to the test with Starbuck because Adama finds out in this episode what she did. And unfortunately, it's Apollo's blunder that actually leads to him finding out, because Apollo misunderstands when Adama says that he's spoken to Starbuck about Zach, and he takes that to mean, oh, she's told you that she passed him when she shouldn't have, but that's not actually what he meant. He just meant, oh, they talked about her feelings about it, because it still makes sense, even not knowing she passed him like incorrectly and like didn't do her job properly. It would still make sense for her to have mixed feelings about training new pilots when one she cared about died in combat anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, and it's later revealed that they were actually engaged, and I don't think we had known that before either, that we just knew that they were dating.
Yeah. And Adama's kind of assumed that in the flashback. He's like, hey, he said he wanted to tell us something, you were engaged, weren't you? And she kind of just, kind of agrees without really saying anything. She just, like, her reaction tells the story, pretty much. I will say there is a phenomenal piece of music in this episode during the funeral scene that is one of the first big themes that I remembered like really sticking out and liking from the show.
Okay.
It's a really good little theme, and it does something, and I don't think it's a spoiling anything to say that it's one of my favourite things a TV show can sometimes do when it goes for a while, and it's only 4 seasons in this case, but is when they'll bring back a theme from like season 1 that they've not used in years for like a pivotal moment. And this piece of music actually pops up in season 4, and it's the sort of thing where this show has many great big themes that I remember fondly, even more so than this one that have not come up yet. But it was just I got a little bit of a chill from hearing it, because I'm like, oh, I like how this is sort of used as a sort of an exclamation point at another part of the show, and it kind of links back to this, and it's nice little things like that it's not even like a setup, because it's not like they knew they were going to do that. That's just a choice they made later to call back to it, but it felt nice to get to it here. So I just wanted to give that a little shout out. It's doing kind of emotional, but there's some military drums in the background as well, so it's mixing some different styles. Bear McCreary's scores is excellent, and like we're really starting to see the fruit of it a couple episodes in here as we get more and more varied themes coming out of the show. But so the plot setup is train some new recruits, so we get these new fresh-faced people who have a little bit of flying experience but not combat, and Starbuck might be overcompensating a little bit for going too easy on Zach. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the way they have a sort of a motley crew of potential pilots that they're going to train, some who have like washed out of flight school before, and some who, for other miscellaneous reasons, weren't quite suited for service in that way. And Starbucks kind of gets up in the ready room, or no, the briefing room, sorry. And I kind of thought she was imitating like Ty's style of how he thinks if
Mm.
they don't all hate me, I'm not doing my job. I kind of felt like she was channeling him in the way she was talking to the recruits, being very harsh, telling them that she's God to them now.
Hey, to be fair, I don't think Ty's ever said he was God, so she's actually gone a little further, perhaps, than even he does.
But I mean, it was just sort of the vibe of like, when I say ready or stand at attention, I forget what the exact term was. You get to your feet, and and then she starts giving them like nicknames right away. So
yeah, there's a nice little visual thing actually. When Apollo's given a speech to the remaining pilots after the accident, there's a nice shot going past all the seats, and you can see all the empty chairs that are there. Because there's all the pilots that are left. Obviously, it's pretty empty when it's just the new recruits because there's only like 5 of them. But even in that previous scene, there was a lot of empty chairs just to kind of sell the idea of how many people are now missing from these briefings. So, when she gets in their face, she kind of names one of them Hot Dog. That's his call sign now because she decided it.
yeah.
So we get this idea that they, she takes them out for a flight. We don't have a simulator, so we're going out, and immediately
we're just gonna get in the Vipers.
Yeah, she immediately says, "Oh, you did terrible. Your landings were awful. That's it. You're all out of here." And even I'm thinking, Starbuck, you've got a very limited population. I don't know if you can be given up on them this quickly.
Yeah.
Which obviously is what Apollo also goes on to say as well, and even goes to Adama, and that's when the little nugget about Kara's guilt comes out, and then that leads to the big scene.
She's feeling guilty about what she did for Zach, was how he worded it. And Adama realizes that there's something he doesn't know. Lee realizes that he didn't really know, and he's kind of like, "You're going to have to ask her." And that's when he says, "Dad, talk to her." And, it was just a touching moment in my mind that was the first time he kind of acknowledged that connection.
As dark as a line as this is, it really hits for me when Adama does talk to Starbuck and he sort of insists, "Hey, like, Lee mentioned something. I want you to like look at me in the eye and give me an answer for this." And he gets her to, admit what it is. The line where he says, "Walk out of here while you still can," like, I remembered that line. Like, all these years later, I knew that line was coming because it's such an aggressive line from someone who I consider to be a very level-headed person, someone a character I respect, but the idea that he's threatening Starbuck with, "I might break your legs if you stay in this room for like 30 more seconds because I'm that angry," just really sold just how much of a gut punch this was to Adama. So it really landed that moment, I think.
Right. And that was the other thing that we also see in the flashbacks that he had said before is, he passed basic flight. This is not your fault.
Yeah.
He was trained. He should have known what he was doing. And what Starbucks had sort of said to Lee before, and what she tells Adama here, is like, he just didn't have a sense of it. And that was also why Apollo was so mad at Adama for so long, is that Zach only went into that to please you. He didn't belong there. Yeah,
but he didn't realize Starbuck was also played a pretty big cog in the chain of events that led to his death. Also it hurts as well because Adama literally says to her, "I love you like a daughter," not too long before he says that line to her. So it really, and I think Starbuck is such a cocky character. She's got a wisecracking smile. She'll stand up for herself. The fact that she walks out of that room crying, just, it hurts because, oh no, like she's broken from this. It sells the gravity of the situation and the guilt that she does feel, and how much Adama's opinion of her does matter to her. It's not just like if Ty says something to her, she didn't give a shit. She'll throw a punch.
Sure.
Yeah.
But even probably this was part of the too many flashbacks that you didn't like, but Zach even asked her when they were in bed together if he really passed. And she doesn't tell him the truth either. And you have to wonder, had she told him the truth, maybe he wouldn't have been on that flight. Like, you kind of just barely slid by, but I let it go, or whatever, But what she says later is he definitely didn't pass, and anybody else I would have failed.
Yeah,
But she let him pass.
I didn't mind seeing that snippet. I think my problem with the too many flashbacks was that it kept going back in for like a quick second of a scene we already saw, or like here's like another second of the funeral, here's another second of when she first met Adama, like on the airfield that day. Here's another, you know, it kept kind of like bouncing back, and it was like trying to do like sort of like almost like a visual poetry with like the images of like coming back, and it almost kind of felt like we're trying to make this feel a bit artier than it actually is by just...
I think it's representing how conflicted Starbuck's feelings are, how difficult it is for her to have to train these pilots again, how her thoughts are so going back to that time. And I think that was also part of the reason, is that it kind of represents that.
I can respect the like what they were going for, but still just sort of not feel the result.
It was just a little too much. Yeah.
I think that's where I kind of stand with it. Which I don't want to say that, because I would say I like this episode more than episode 2, which was the other one we were a bit more lukewarm on.
I guess, yes, as we start to rank the entire season as we go.
No, I mean, we're not going... I just want to compare it to that, because we were saying the even numbers have been a bit less exciting. I think this one's at least got some really strong character stuff in it, so I think this one still feels more important than 2 did by comparison. So... no, I mean, that stuff's good, and obviously the whole thing is that she does, after that scene with Adama, get the rookies back, the nuggets, as they call them here. That's their term for the rookies. And says,
yes,
okay.
They are reinstated to flight status.
Yeah. So she takes them out, and she's actually doing a bit of a better job as an instructor, teaching them the rules and whatnot, and even Ty is complimenting her, and I actually love this little moment, not just because Ty's complimenting her and that means something because of how much he dislikes her, but just the fact that Adama didn't want to talk about her. Like, you could sort of tell, like, no, this is still weird for him, even like think about her. He's just kind of ignoring anything that's been said about her in the CNC. So I really like that little moment as we were building up to kind of the Cylons show up. It's just some raiders. But it's like, oh shit, they've shown up when all these rookies are out there and they've never really fired the guns before. This is kind of a bad move.
It was only 3 of the rookie pilots at that point: Cat, Chuckles, and Hot Dog.
Yes.
We're going out on the first training flight, and it was 8 Cylon raiders, but there's no base ship. So that's kind of a little bit of a break. They're not being hit with a full force attack, but still, Starbuck is like, get the other Vipers out here. And it's not really clear why that doesn't happen, because you would think they should be pretty ready to get, the other pilots, the ones who are still healthy, would be ready to get out pretty quickly.
They don't really mention it too much this episode, in fact, maybe even not at all, but I think the idea is they're still kind of stationed by that planet they're getting water from. Like, I think that's the idea, is they're still kind of like stationary right now.
Yeah, they did mention that, but still to have your defense fleet ready to go, it seems to me like that's implied previously, that they really are almost ready to go at a moment's notice. And even Lee is just standing there. Why the heck isn't he jumping down in a Viper and getting out there?
He's in a command position. He isn't sitting in the cockpit. That's what he's doing.
You do what you do.
Putting on his ribbon and doing all these other stuff. But Starbuck, like a badass, is like, all right, you rookies get back. I'm turning around and taking on all 8 of these raiders by myself. and does okay, actually, all things considered.
Yeah, but Hot Dog also goes back against orders and joins her. So together they take out 7 of them, 7 of the 8, and then the last one, I think Starbuck shoots, but as it's kind of crashing, it like clips her. I'm not sure if it's her wing or her engine or whatever, but it hits her ship a little bit, and that's what causes her Viper to spiral. Yeah,
so she actually does take out the last one. It's just in the aftermath it kind of damages her ship too. So that leads to all the snippets we've been seeing of her falling and ejecting out of the Viper. So that leaves us on our big cliffhanger for the main plot for next episode, which, and I like where this goes. I don't want to spoil anything, but I do like where it goes, and it does pay off a lot of the emotional character stuff from this episode. So this is like the benefit of the hindsight, is I know what this is building to. So fun stuff there. Elsewhere in the episode, though, we got some other stuff to touch on. We once again get like a single scene on Caprica with Hilo and Sharon as they find the signal they've been following, and it's basically a fallout bunker. It's it's stocked with food, it's stocked with all this stuff. It just had like a signal repeating.
A disaster beacon is what they call it. So somebody set that off, and fortunately it was a signal they were able to follow. But you do see a 6 kind of lurking in the background watching them, so you can't help but wonder, like, had they just planted all that there with the purpose of getting Sharon and Hilo to find it?
I think
keep
it's
them going.
almost certainty that the Cylons just planted this here, because like she even has that moment like, wait, someone set this all up, and why are they not here? And I mean, my thought is, okay, you could explain that by saying, oh, they didn't know the attack was coming, so they didn't make it in time. But Sharon's just like, oh, that's just, thank her lucky stars. And I'm like, yep, I'm pretty sure this was just planted here for you, so we could keep doing whatever we're doing here. Give you a lucky break so that we can do the next part of this weird experiment that we're doing. So
yeah, I was gonna say this Hilo's a lab rat and he doesn't even know it kind of thing going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's perfectly fine. Once again, I am feeling kind of this weird, like, this is one scene per episode, pretty much, we're getting, of Hilo and Caprica, and it feels a little bit strange to me. But we'll see when it gets a bit more focused down the season, which I'm sure it is going to. But
yes. I remember I shared that insight about how he wasn't even really supposed to be in the show, but
yes,
a lot of people reacted to him. So I kind of think that's part of why those scenes are so limited, is because it was, I would imagine they shot all of those together over the course of a week or two or something.
Yeah, maybe even later on, and they sort of just went back and spliced them in, because they have nothing to do with the rest of the episodes, and any of the episodes they've been in so far. Like, nothing thematically is linked up with anything else. It's just been kind of little reminder of what's going on with
just
Hilo.
Reminding us, that they're still out there. Well, and also, of course, the Sharon actress, I can't think of her name offhand, has to be in 2 places, so
yeah.
And then there was one other kind of small scene. You want to talk about that?
We talked about the Roslyn scene, the doctor. Yeah. Yeah, she, obviously finally sees the doctor, and the doctor's a bit of a character. He's chain smoking his way through the appointment, which is, a little bit weird. But basically he's like, yep, you know what, you left it too long between screenings, so I'm kind of blaming you for this, but there's really not much we can do other than, the basic treatment. But Rosalind reveals that she saw her mother go through this in the last couple of years of her life before she finally died, and that she would rather do something that is alternative, to which he assumes she means praying, and then she whips out a potential, I guess, radical, like
herbal treatment or something like that. She calls it Kamala extract. And I didn't write it down, but the doctor does name the drug that he would put her on, and it has a lot of side effects, including losing her hair and probably, sapping her strength and things like that.
I mean, obviously it says a bunch of stuff, but he's basically just describing like chemotherapy, right? Like it's something we can recognize and compare it to quite easily. So
sure.
But she doesn't want to do that. She wants to remain strong in her position for the time being. That may not be the only motivation for her not wanting to take the treatment. Like I said, her mother might actually be a factor here as well, but I have to imagine her wanting to be a strong leader for as long as she can be might be one of the reasons why she's not wanting to intentionally do something that will weaken her, her status, So yeah, I mean, it's a fine little scene. It's probably the least Rosalind we've had in any episode, which is okay, because obviously she's had a lot of focus in the last several episodes. This one was very focused on this. This episode was Starbuck's story, right? That's what this episode was. Arguably, this 2-parter even is Starbuck's story. So it's okay for them to focus on certain characters. Because we only see like Boomer and Baltar in one poker scene, for example, and it's a scene that's, again, the purpose of that scene is to show that Starbuck is, her head's not in the game. She's not like really committed to the poker like everyone else is, and that's all it really is. But
but something else very briefly does come up in that scene. I think, was it Sam Witwer's character?
Crashdown,
asks, Gata is there with Baltar and asks them how the Cylon detector is going, which of course they haven't been working on in the slightest.
Yeah, though.
And
Boomer's eyebrows
nice...
going up when she hears this, like, what? What's this about silent detectors?
and then there's, well, even if such a thing didn't exist, it would be highly classified, and we could certainly not talk about it under circumstances like these. So I just, the usual like BS, put it off, and
yeah. I mean, it's a fun little sequence, and it's got a funny ending because Crashdown and Boomer bet on whether who's going to win between Starbuck and Baltar, and because Starbuck just leaves the game, Boomer gets to very kind of like gloat a little bit as she takes in her currency or whatever the currency was. I don't remember what they were calling their money, but yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. Actually, the other Sharon, when her and Hilo, are going to the bunker and they're like moving like books out the way, it was regular books. They didn't have the corners cut off.
Oh, I will admit I did not notice that.
And all I could think was, oh, you had to shoot this in a rush. You didn't have time to get specialized books. You had to just go grab some from a library. So it made me laugh.
Okay, that's fair, because when Kara was in the first briefing showing like, here's a poster of what you're going to be looking for in the Viper cockpit or whatever, those had cut corners.
Oh, they did, yeah. And that wasn't even paper. That was like, looks like a PowerPoint presentation, but all the images.
It was like poster board, because it was like, printed out. So
that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. It made me laugh because I'm like, oh, you had to just like get these books in a rush, and that's why they're all just normal books. So I don't know. I got a chuckle out of that.
I will admit I didn't notice that, but that is a really funny detail to have noticed.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to bring up something from last week that I forgot to mention, because we talked a lot about, the main premise and all that, but Zarek specifically. I wanted to mention, though, I forgot to bring up that during the standoff, when they're, like Callie's in the cell with the guy, and like it's very tense, and he's got the weapon. I wanted to point out that, Zarek, for all the like different opinions we get of like, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy from the other characters, I do think for the audience, that scene where he kind of basically just says, oh, he's a monster and like he's going to assault her because you made him a monster and put him in a cage. Like, I do want to point out that I think that does like lean the audience more towards he's a bad guy, because it feels like you're justifying too much here. You're blaming like the system for something that is not the system's fault right now. It is almost like he wouldn't want to admit that he's done anything wrong here. I don't know. I wanted to bring that up because I forgot to bring it up last week.
Okay. Yeah. I think that it is sort of going against the image that Zarek was trying to portray previously when that happens. So yes, good observation.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it was one of the things was, oh shit, I forgot to say that. But yeah. Yeah.
Language, Peter.
Right, look, there's a hard line on the show here about what words can be used and cannot be used, but shit is very accepted, okay?
Okay.
Right?
Frack that.
Yeah, so you can say frack, of course, but and I'm sure they've said another weird, like, I think they had one or two other gimmicky swear words that never stuck. Like, frack sticks around and everyone uses it. It's even made it into other movies and shows. But I'm pretty sure there's a few other little ones that they tried and didn't quite work out. And it's like, no one wants to remember those.
Right.
But yeah, there you go. That's episode 4, Act of Contrition.
Yep, definitely a good one, but we'll see what is to come. Yep.
Not as exciting as 1 or 3, but yeah, I think there's some strong character work in here that I was happy to revisit. So yeah, we'll see you next time for the next episode. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that usual YouTube stuff. It helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, if you want to support everything, you can do that over at Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and get some bonuses as well. But thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?